The last meal. In the Old Testament, 1 Kings 17 tells the story of a widow living in the region of Zarephath during a time of famine that affected many in the Middle East, leading to widespread hunger and poverty. This famine was a result of the idolatry in northern Israel. God informed Elijah of the impending famine and directed him to a widow in Sidon to receive grace and sustenance. Following God's command, Elijah approached the city gate of Zarephath, where he found a widow gathering sticks for what she believed would be her and her son's last meal, using the last of their flour and oil. Elijah asked her for water and a piece of bread. The widow explained her dire situation, having no bread and only a handful of flour and a little oil left to prepare their final meal before facing death. Elijah reassured her, asking her not to fear, but to first make a small cake for him from what she had, and then to prepare something for herself and her son. At first glance, Elijah might seem like a con artist to the widow, attempting to take her last bit of food. It raises the question, how many in such dire circumstances would willingly give up their last meal? However, if God willed it, he could have provided for Elijah through someone else, as he had been doing. Yet God orchestrated this event to teach spiritual truths to all future generations. If the widow had been given a full jar of flour before being asked to make Elijah a cake, obedience would have been easy. Instead, God chose to miraculously replenish her supply of flour, only after she used the last of it to feed Elijah. Had doubt crept into the widow's heart, she likely wouldn't have prepared that final cake. Today, many believers face various challenges without preparing their faith, instead hoping for miraculous acts of God to occur first. Knowing this, God brought about this event through Elijah. Just like the faith of the widow of Zarephath, we cannot experience the works of God until we show our faith first. We often wish for our circumstances to change first, but God desires our hearts to change before our environment. Before our surroundings can transform, we must first change the heart that has shaped those circumstances. Many believers, when faced with difficult circumstances, fail to reflect inwardly and instead blame their surroundings, expressing resentment and complaints against God, filling their hearts with grievances. However, such complaints and grievances only prove our lack of faith. Therefore, before filling our hearts with complaints and grievances, we should examine what values occupy our hearts. If we fill our hearts with God's word and rely on faith in that word, instead of complaints and grievances, our hearts will transform into gratitude and contentment, and then God will begin to change our circumstances. The story of the widow of Zarephath is an event made to make us realize this truth. Thus, I hope we become God's people who experience God's work and providence by changing our hearts before our environment.
구독, 좋아요, 알림 설정 해주세요. Subscribe, like, set notifications.